Jacob Fatu made a statement. That's Braun Strowman, for crying out loud.
Yeah, you got
And
to put a knife. You got to put an edge on the sword. What's the use of having a knife if it won't cut? They had to do that with him, and nobody took a L in the process. And that's my thing. And that's old school too. Like you ain't gonna have nobody take a win or a loss unless it's a paid TV under the lights.
Bully, to see Jacob Fatu, and we've talked about this a lot about Jacob Fatu, and Jacob Fatu is that star coming out of that Bloodline 2.0. That was a statement made by him on Saturday. That's Braun Strowman. To leave Braun Strowman laying and bleeding like that, that's not something that you see from Braun Strowman every day, if at all, in his entire career. We always talked about, when it came to the Bloodline 2.0, there were times where I've come on here and said, I just don't believe in them. They got to do something to make me believe. Solo Sikoa has to do something to make me believe. I believe in Jacob Fatu after seeing what I saw on Saturday night's main event.
I want you to think back to about a month ago. I said something very specific about Jacob Fatu. When it came to the WWE, what were they doing to Jacob Fatu? Do you remember what I said, Dave?
Well, it just seemed like they were building him up. Like he was in the background, he wasn't in the forefront, but he was making his presence known.
I said that at any given moment he could break out and become the star, but they're keeping him on a leash until they're ready. Do you remember me saying that?
Yes.
The other night, Saturday night's main event, they were ready. They took the leash off for the night and they let him do what we could do. People are talking. I saw people talking on social media about, oh, Jacob Fatu, Jacob Fatu. We've been singing Jacob Fatu's praises on this show for a long, long time now, long before he ever got to the WWE. We know what we saw, and the WWE sees it in him also. And he's been doing a great job. Jacob Fatu commands the spotlight. The spotlight finds him. You were actually able to put your finger on a moment in time on Saturday and going, this is the very moment that this guy started to truly get over. When they started chanting one more time. They wanted more of Jacob Fatu, and then they started chanting, Fatu, Fatu. They're going to be chanting that in the arenas now. He's going to get over. And getting over is more important than anything else in the world. Whether that's getting over as a babyface or as a heel, they're going to let the people decide. They'll push him in a certain direction. But now they're going to want to see Jacob Fatu destroy people. I loved the simplicity of the hip attacks. I don't even know, the ass busters, whatever you want to call them. Braun Strowman's head was on that laying on that second turnbuckle, and time after time again, all Jacob Fatu did was run into his head with his ass. The beauty in the simplicity. Now I could hear people out there going, but Bully, he did it 10 times, not just once. That's what it takes to keep a monster like Braun Strowman down. They protected
and it's different.
Correct. They protected Braun Strowman. And they're not
winning a match.
They're not trying to get over the hip check. It's okay. They're not trying to get over the hip check, but the brutality of hip check after hip check after hip check, damn, it really starts to set in. This is brutal. And then how they executed the moonsaults. And I want to give props. Mark, it's Daivari who's there, right? Who's working as an agent? Sean Daivari. Sean Daivari made the pull-aparts and Jacob's moonsaults look more believable and credible. Go back and watch Daivari while Jacob climbs up to the top rope. Daivari doesn't just stand to the side. He actually stands in between Jacob Fatu and Braun Strowman. physically trying to stop him. But then once Daivari sees Jacob Fatu start to do that moonsault, he has to protect himself and get out of the way. It doesn't seem as contrived. It looks like Daivari is legitimately trying to stop this monster, as opposed to like what we talked about last week. We're watching AEW with that big brawl, and what are the referees doing on the floor? Absolutely nothing. This pull apart, there was chaos, there was confusion. Daivari looked like he was doing something. There might have been one other person there who looked like they were trying to get in front of the moonsault, but Daivari really stood out to me. It lends credibility to everything. It's not just everybody just standing back going, oh, no, wait, don't do the moonsault, and then it just happens. He's really trying to stop the guy. But then the monster starts to hit the moonsault. Daivari's like, screw this. I'm an agent. I'm not a wrestler anymore. I'm getting out of the way. I have my own family to protect.
Yeah, and like what you were saying earlier about the hip checks, Bully, is the fact that it's completely different because Jacob Fatu in that moment is trying to inflict as much pain as human. He's not looking to win a match. He's not looking for a finish. He's looking to inflict as much pain as humanly possible. This is how good that segment was as far as like getting me to buy into Jacob Fatu, where now if you said to me that the end game is to have Roman Reigns against Jacob Fatu at WrestleMania, I can buy in. I can buy into that.
I brought that scenario about 2 weeks ago, and you weren't very on board.
No, you needed to have something like what we had. Yeah, you needed to have them. Like Bully, you're so right. Mark, you are so right. You now have that moment now that you can go back. That was the moment. That was the moment that turned Jacob Fatu into a part of Bloodline 2.0 into now somebody who could be a part of WrestleMania.
We talked about Jacob, but when are we going to talk about Braun Strowman? How great of a guy to get people over now. He's so legitimate and so Teflon that he can go into a match with Bronson Reed and get him over. He can go into a match with Jacob Fatu and get him over. You can't have one side without the other. And Jacob is going to be Jacob. But it's like me and Bully always say, it's who you dance with. And Braun Strowman is going to heal up from this, and he's going to come back meaner and madder than hell. And Jacob is going to have to pay the piper. And I can see right after him paying that piper, Bronson Reed showing up again and just laying him to waste. And you thought it was over? You thought I was done? Hey, sign the triple threat up, man, and put it on the paper. Put it on WrestleMania.
Dave, moments in time that you can put your finger on. What was Steve Austin's moment in time?
For Steve, you could go either with Tyson or McMahon.
No, that wasn't Steve's moment.
Oh, I'm sorry. The famous promo, of course. King of the Ring.
Not even that. To me,
then what was it then?
To me, well, I like to play this little guessing game because I get excited when you get it right. You get all frustrated. The minute Bret Hart turns him over in the sharpshooter and he's a Crimson Mask, that's Steve Austin's moment to me. Because Austin 316 happens and then it doesn't catch on until months later. That moment that Bret turns him over and he passes out, people were into Steve Austin in that moment. Becky Lynch, the minute Nia Jax shatters her face. Last night, Saturday night, was Jacob's moment in time.
They felt him. They had an emotional connection to the heart. Braun Strowman on the ground bleeding. Like, as much as they respected Jacob for the work that he put in on Braun, they also, like, when Braun stood up, finally, like, they got him to the apron, the whole arena. Man, come on. You're going to be all right. You can hear people. It's okay, man. You're going to be all right.
And Mark, I think you got to witness live that what we didn't get to see on TV, sympathy on a monster.
Yeah.
Not easy to do.
It's hard to do. It's hard to do.
And I don't think there's anybody else, like you mentioned Bronson Reed, maybe Bronson Reed, but I don't think Bronson Reed could have done what Braun Strowman did. Like Braun Strowman, with the history of him in the WWE, like you said, the credibility of him being the monster, he was the only person that could have done that for Jacob. I don't think there's anybody else on the roster that could have done what Braun Strowman did for him on Saturday.
He's the biggest guy there.